Consider the functions f and g. The graph of g is obtained by two transformations of the graph of f. Describe these two transformations. So we can see that it was sine x and it becomes sine of x minus 3 pi over 2, and it implies horizontal translation 3 pi over 2 to the right. So you should say the first transformation is horizontal translation 3 pi over 2 to the right, minus to the right, plus to the left, or horizontal shift but not horizontal move. Or you may just write translation by a vector 3 pi over 2, 0. It implies to the right because it's plus 3 pi over 2, and since it's x coordinate, not the y, it implies horizontal. So you may say horizontal translation by 3 pi over 2 to the right, or just translation by 3 pi over 2, 0. And the next transformation, we can see that plus q arises, and what does it mean? It means that y values becomes larger by q, and it means vertical translation by q, or vertical translation q units up, or you may say vertical shift q units up, not vertical move or motion q units up, or you may write just translation by 0 q, and it implies vertical because it's y coordinate, and plus implies up. And the next, the y-intercept of the graph of g is at 0 r. Given that g of x is greater or equal than 7, it means y coordinates or y values are at least 7, and find the smallest value of r. So let's consider how it looks like. So just sine looks like this, and a range of sine y values are in between -1 and 1, and if there is 4 here, it's called amplitude. It means that y values becomes 4 times larger, and hence y values changes in between -4 and 4, and it's a vertical shift, and it means that each y value becomes 2.5 plus q greater, hence it looks like this. So the minimum value is -4 plus 2.5 plus q, and the maximum value is 4 plus 2.5 plus q, and the required y-intercept is here. And since we need r to be the smallest, it means this graph must be as lower as possible, and since y values must be at least 7, so at least 7, it means this minimum point must be 7, so it's the smallest possible value, y value of this function, and hence if the minimum of this function is at 7, hence the corresponding value for r is the smallest possible. Definitely, and hence we can found we can find q from this condition. Definitely q may be 1,000 or 1,000,000, and sign will be up, and hence there will be some another y-intercept, but it will be not the smallest, so the smallest possible y-intercept when the smallest possible value, y-value of this function is 7, so the minimum is 7, and hence we can find q, so it becomes -4 plus 2.5, it's minus 1.5 plus q is 7, so q is 8.5, and hence our function becomes 4 sine x minus 3 pi over 2 plus 11, and if we consider y-intercept, just consider x to be equal to 0, hence r becomes 4 sine of negative 3 pi over 2 plus 11. What is sine of negative 3 pi over 2? You can use a unit circle. Negative angles are in clockwise direction, so it's 3 times pi over 2. 1, 2, 3. It's here. And sine is y coordinate, and we can see that y coordinate is 1. So sine of negative 3 pi over 2 is plus 1. Or we know that sine is odd function, and sine of negative 3 pi over 2, it's negative sine 3 pi over 2. And 3 pi over 2, it's in anti-clockwise direction. 1, 2, 3, it's here. It's actually 270 degrees, and it's -1, but minus 1, it's plus 1. So anyway, sine of negative 3 pi over 2, it's plus 1, hence it becomes 4 times 1 plus 11 is 15, hence the required value of r is 15, and it's the smallest possible y-intercept as required. And that's all for this question.